Hey friends, thanks for joining me, Jim Baroud, to hear a few insights from leaders who represent our innovation ecosystem. Today's chat is with Eric Westphal, AVP of Global Workforce Strategy and Operations at Cognizant, and Krishna Kumar, the founder and managing director of Quintrix. Eric, give us a background. First, what do you do at Cognizant?
Sure, yeah, and thanks, Jim, for having me. I've been working for Cognizant for 13 years, and I'll talk a little bit about the journey. But essentially, I'm the associate vice president for workforce strategy and operations, which is a couple of things, and it'll make sense of why they come together. But I'm responsible for what we call our pre-employment training programs, of which we work with Quintrix and Krishna and his organization. As well as our economic development, our global economic development programs, which help fund those programs, all of our people analytics across the organization, and our process engineering group that's thinking about how do we continue to optimize and create efficiencies and ways that we can increase our recruitment fulfillment and our attraction and all those wonderful processes.
Great, thanks, Eric. Krishna?
I'm the founder and now managing director at Quintrix. We are in the business of creating and helping solve the long-term talent shortage problem. And obviously, I'll go a little bit more deeper into what that means.
Great. Okay, well, let's get into that. Eric, you've been at Cognizant for a while now, and you've had obviously experience before then. Talk to us about your corporate journey.
Yeah, sure. So I had an interesting way of coming into Cognizant. I was working for Deloitte, finishing up my master's, and I was thinking of making a pivot into the consulting practice. And Cognizant came calling, and I had no idea who Cognizant was as an organization. I did a little bit of my due diligence to find that this company was one of the fastest growing companies. The previous year, it had grown at 42% year over year. It was close to crossing the 100,000 employee mark and close to 10 billion. And so they were calling saying, we have a deputy chief of staff role. And I said, I don't even know what a chief of staff does in a CEO's office. But I got a chance to meet with Francisco D'Souza and, hit it off with him and was just inspired. Took the opportunity, was one of the best decisions I made. I did that role for a number of years. I got really involved with our government affairs and our chief legal and corporate affairs office. Spent a lot of time in DC building out our government affairs and our corporate affairs office, where I really got entrenched in understanding the challenges around the talent skills gap, the technology talent skills gap. And that kind of led me into thinking about, not just talking about what Cognizant was doing, but was talking about what Cognizant could do more of, and beginning to think about how I could architect programs to help close that gap. So I pivoted into a role now, which is driving more of our overall kind of workforce strategy programs, these alternative programs. And like any good executive, I had to figure out how I would pay for those things, pay for all these great ideas. And so in several of those meetings that I had, speaking with various governors and economic development professionals, they told me there are lots of these training subsidies and various programs that companies can engage in to help to create jobs in communities and help to train associates. And so that's kind of how I've landed here. And I'm incredibly passionate about it, and we've had great success doing it. And we've met some great people like Krishna and others.
Great, thanks, Eric. But for context here, how big is the company now? When you got there, it was over 100,000 employees. How many employees?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Jim. I hoped I was going to be the 100,000th employee. I came very close. But yes, when I joined, we crossed 100,000 employees. Today, we're 340,000. When I joined, we were just about to cross 10 billion. Now we're close to hitting 20 billion in revenue. And the funny thing too is that one of the first jobs I had when I joined Cognizant was to celebrate us joining the Fortune 500, and now we are in the Fortune 200. So I still have this wonderful engraved bottle of wine that we made to celebrate that occasion. But it's a reminder of how far the company has come in a relatively short period of time.
And I recall, I know because the CEO came and spoke at a conference I organized way back when. And I remember some chart where it was like the fastest growing or most appreciation in stock price that no one had ever heard of. Was that stat?
Yeah, that was a quote that it was a faster appreciating stock than Apple. That was comparing it to Apple. So yes, one of the fastest growing companies for sure. And it was and it continues to be. It was a very exciting time and continues to be really exciting as we continue to grow the company and new markets and new services. It really is it is exciting. And I feel like I've had multiple careers in one organization, and I think that's something that really attracts Cognizant when you're this large, that you can have many exciting careers.
Absolutely. Okay, Krishna, go ahead.
My story is slightly different. After my grad school, I worked for a very large retail organization, doing a lot of analytics on their revenue, on the revenue numbers, on their budgetings, sales projections, and stuff like that. So it was a lot of databases and number crunching and Excel type of work. Very quickly realized that I really needed to seek out something a bit more creative. And I don't know if like people outside of tech feel that way, but I feel like tech is a very creative industry. As much as it is a high aptitude, logic, reasoning type of an industry, but there's a lot of creativity in the sense that you build stuff, right? So I spent the next 8-10 years consulting large financial services companies. So I was with Goldman, I was with State Street Bank, Society General, basically helping them build scalable solutions for their financial reporting and accounting. And then as any other immigrant, I was excited to get my green card and start on my entrepreneurial journey. So it's funny that in 2012, January, I received my permanent residency in America, and in 2 months, I was off with Quintrix, right? Started as a traditional staffing company, but very quickly realized that there are 17,000 staffing companies in the US. While they have a place, they solve a problem, but they don't help in increasing the talent pool, right? So that's when this genesis of what can I do as a company or an individual to help increase the talent pool, and also sort of make it in some ways risk-free for enterprises and candidates to be part of that ecosystem. And we'll talk more about it, but that's essentially what the journey looks like. And just yesterday, my leadership at Quintrix decided that we've set a goal for training and upskilling 10,000 individuals tuition free. And that's a vision that we're going to be working on over the next few years.
Wow, that is exciting.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to you, Eric. You've been involved with so many things at Cognizant. Talk to us about some of the innovative programs you've been involved with.
Yeah, so first, I completely admire Krishna's journey. He says that I'm taking chances and risks, but wow, incredible accomplishments. I remember several years ago, first meeting with Krishna, and they were kind of, I think we were one of your first large, corporate partners, and talking about that, initial kind of vision. And you get it. I get it when I talk to Krishna. I get the vision, and they have knocked it out of the park and as a partner with us. And one of the things, and I note that because one of the things is when we first started looking at this, Cognizant, really thinking about what else we could do. I think initially we thought about it from a charitable kind of perspective. Can we do something from just, scholarshiping programs? How can we do things with younger folks and encouraging them to pursue careers in tech? But obviously that was a long range plan that was going to take many years to materialize into increasing the available pool of technology talent. And so there was an opportunity where, very often with our large engagements and leveraging technology, there are folks that are going to get, there are folks in roles that are going to get displaced. And that's a reality of it. But I view it as a chance for them to pivot in their careers to see that, moving from one area of doing something where, maybe it's a very manual process that's being automated into another space where you can actually be coding that automation. And we saw that opportunity with a large client engagement, and we contacted a small organization. Again, in the original mindset of thinking nonprofit, I was looking at nonprofits and came in contact with Perscolas, which is a nonprofit that focuses on this training based in the Bronx. And they stepped up and immediately said, we can help to build these kind of customized programs. And we did that. And that was our first experiment of saying, okay, let's do this. And at the beginning of it, because we were delivering this program to folks that unfortunately were going to be displaced by some of the technology transformation going on within their organization, they were not that excited to see us there. But they took this opportunity, this training that was provided to them. And at the end of it, the graduation, it was probably one of the best experiences I had. People were coming up and saying, thank you for this. You've changed my life. We've pivoted. They found new careers in technology. It was mainly focused in the New York area. And it was a huge success. And that was a pivotal moment for us as an organization to say, you know what, this can be a way for us to cultivate entry-level talent going forward. We can really build these programs as a complement to our already campus recruitment programs. And that's what we did, Jim. That was the original kind of catalyst to saying, we do this. And then we have experimented, as I said. I would encourage, our HR professionals to do that. We have been continuing to experiment with other models.
Got it. And talk to us briefly. I know you've been involved with the foundation. Talk to us just about the impact that Cognizant has had through those initiatives.
Yeah, so the foundation was really came out of the idea that as we were running these programs and you really look to address the real root cause of this, we said we need to really increase the available talent at the very top of that funnel. We need to get more students, encouraging more younger generation to pursue careers in tech, but we also need to look at veterans. We need to look at underserved, underrepresented, and how can we do that? And that's where the foundation was kind of established. And the idea being that it would be rising tide lifts all boats, that we would help to encourage more of these students to pursue programs, whether it would be in college or whether it would be at organizations like Krishna's or other nonprofits, to go and take these training programs, giving them the initial foundation. Because as we'll talk, Jim, many of the programs that both Krishna and Cognizant are running aren't necessarily taking people at absolute zero, at least for us. That's a long journey to take to turn somebody into a digital engineer or a full stack engineer. So we needed to find a way to give people that foundation, and the foundation has been doing that. It's been providing a lot of avenues for students to get entry level, basic foundational technology skills, so that expands where they can kind of go with that and get the additional training and find where they want to kind of direct their career.
Got it. Okay, so Krishna, why don't you tell us about the collaboration from your perspective?
So I want to just take a little bit of a step back there, because when we were sort of designing the business plan for Quintrix, right, we looked at different options that enterprises had back then. So you had, the campus hiring, you had the boot camp model, you had staffing companies they could reach out to, and then you also had the internal hiring and internship programs. And what we found was each of those avenues had their pros and cons, but there was not a end-to-end solution that was available where enterprises could have this predictable pipeline of custom trained talent. And in some ways, this, what we originally called train to hire, now the industry term is hire, train, deploy, and I know Cognizant calls it the pre-employment training. All of this means, pretty much the same, where you provide the last mile training, right? So you have someone with the foundational knowledge or passion, sometimes in technology, and then you provide them with the hands-on, real-world type of an experience, so that they can be productive from day one. Because think about it, when you have a talent crunch, the last thing you want to do is put pressure on your middle level managers to have to mentor and spend a ton of time on entry level talent. So this model kind of solves a lot of those problems. And just having worked with several other enterprises that are trying to do this, I think what I really admire about Cognizant is they have truly been able to scale this. And this involves work in the sense that you have to educate people. Because if you ask a hiring manager, their instinct is, hey, I need somebody who's done this for the last 10 years. Can you just find me someone who, who knows how to do this so I don't have to spend time training him? But educating the hiring managers about why this is important and why just using the old method of recruiting and finding lateral talent is not going to solve the long-term talent shortage problem. So I think Cognizant has done a phenomenal job at pushing that downstream to all its clients, its accounts, to sort of again educate the client and then open doors for these high caliber trained entry level talent.
Got it. Well, talk to us. We know that we hear all the time there's these tech talent shortages in general, right? I mean, there's a lot of pain out there where people can't find talent, and it's really constraining growth and causing a lot of missed opportunities. So talk to us about the state of the tech landscape. First, Eric, from your perspective.
Yeah, so I think there's two parts to that. I think there is an incredible tech talent labor shortage, and then I'd say there's a lot of volatility in the market because of that. We all hear it, right? The great resignation. And I think what's really happening there's the great kind of movement of tech talent among several organizations, and so to Krishna's point, we need to look beyond the traditional tech talent profile. And so what I mean by that is that, it's this, this common kind of idea that we have to look for the 4-year, computer science engineer. And that's like a guarantee that they'll be productive and from our perspective, billable on day one. And that's just not the reality. Even with those that we hire off of campus, those that are the computer science engineers from top tier universities and colleges, they still require the mentoring, they still require on the job experience, they still go through a period of time of just training before they're deployed. And so what I think these types of programs afford us is the ability to widen the pool of talent that we can look for. So we brought, and this is where Quintrix came to us and said, okay, we're not looking just purely at the university. Some of their competitors look purely at universities, which is great, and it's still something we need. But they're looking at community colleges. They're looking at today folks that are pivoting in their careers, the career switchers. I call them sometimes the outskillers, those that are looking to leave to make a pivot into a new career because they want to upward trajectory and they see the current career that they're in is not affording that. So we've hired folks that are in STEM related degrees, STEM related fields. We've hired, school administrators, put them through these programs, and they're incredibly successful through it. So I really view that's what's going on right now, is that we're not going to drastically increase the number of computer science engineers that are coming out of universities. I think it's hitting that 50 or 60,000 last time I've looked is what you're getting in the US. And so we need far more than that. And so we have to look at these other innovative programs to widen the pool of talent that we can bring into the organization. And by the way, Jim, that affords us as a company that's serving many different industries, it brings us, domain experience, bring somebody that's been doing, a data, I'm just going to make it example is data engineer, a data input for healthcare, or insurance claims. Great. A bit of the process. Cognizant has its own insurance platforms. We've got lots of insurance clients. If you understand kind of that process, you can add value coming in as a tech professional. So there's lots of those great opportunities. I think that's how we're going to kind of navigate through this great resignation, this volatility, this continued labor shortage.
Great. That's really insightful. And Krishna, do you see similar sort of insights from your end?
Yeah, I only have stats for back until 2020, and last time I checked, it was 1.4 million unfilled tech positions versus the 60 to 80,000 computer science grads that that graduate out of colleges each year. So this chasm, this gap is tremendous, which is a challenge as well as an opportunity, clearly. Everyone's trying. I think the government's trying, private organizations, enterprises, boot camps, because education and upskilling is really the direction. That's the only investment that we can make to sort of reduce this gap. I also want to talk about the fact that, academics, so colleges, universities, have had challenges keeping up with the pace of growth, right? Especially the pace of growth of new technologies. I know one of the things Cognizant also does is partner with universities to create more real world curriculums. I would love to see more of those. This is something we have in plans as well over the next few years, is how can we partner in a more effective manner with colleges and integrate real world experience and knowledge into their curriculum. So.
And I think I was just on the campus earlier today. So, and I come from academia. I'm sure they're looking for ways to make their students, more job ready for the applicable positions of the future, right? And much of that is going to be in tech. So clearly, I think there's a lot of need, right? There's a lot of opportunities, and I think sort of the incumbent institutions are starting to get on board because they really, really need to get their students onboarded for new jobs. Are you seeing that, Eric?
Absolutely. The two examples that Krishna is alluding to is that we've run some really successful programs with ASU for business analysts in our consulting, where we really leaned in on developing that curriculum, and it created a really nice bridge for those students that were graduating to say, okay, I'm not quite sure, and landing kind of into this program that pivoted them right into a business analyst role within Cognizant. And we've done that in a few other places as well. We've done that with Northeastern and leaning in on programs there through our partners 2U, which, as you know, if you know 2U, they do lots of these programs with top tier universities. And we also built a program in partnership with Central Piedmont Community College. So we're trying to do it both at the university college level as well as the community college level. And that program was really supported by the state. They really leaned in and have been tremendous, and we're going to run it again. And that's an apprenticeship style program where we develop the curriculum hand in hand together again. We really work to market it both through Cognizant, both through the community college, looking for the students to help them make that pivot. And we've hired a lot of successful folks through that. And as an apprenticeship model too, Jim. So we're leveraging the fact that Cognizant has a registered federal apprenticeship program that we are trying to continue to build scale to. And that's affording us that ability, again, to kind of bring them through that whole path and continue that on-the-job training for the first year. And as Krishna alluded to, it is taking time to change some of the misperceptions about those that don't have, the 4 or 5 plus years of experience. But the fact that we can bring them in saying they've gone through a program that Cognizant has leaned in on to develop. And, we've also developed the technical assessments, the technical interviews. So we really know the quality of these students, and we're presenting that to our business teams, right, as part of the talent acquisition group, saying this talent has gone through programs that we've essentially certified with our partners. It's giving them that more comfort, and I hope that will continue to stretch into the 2-year degree, less than the 4-year, less than the typical computer science engineer profile. That is my hope, and that's what we are pushing. There's 2 other programs. I don't want to run long, but I will tell you this Cognizant Skills Accelerator program is our first shot at doing a asynchronous training program in partnership with edX and Udacity, where we've curated curriculum courses that are free to these students to take. We are still doing a bit of a selection, helping to set them up for success. But that's our kind of our lean into to go ahead and put our curriculum out there and make it available. And again, another way for us to widen that pool. I hope that some of those students that go through that program will direct to Quintrix to say, continue your education through this amazing program.
That really sounds interesting. And I think things are coming together now, as I said, but this is all predicted like 10 years ago, 15 years ago by Clay Christensen, as you remember. He talked about corporates coming in and helping the training process to get students ready for their jobs. So obviously you guys are really sort of progressive here, and looking forward to see the results and the growth of these programs, because it can't come too soon, right? I mean, when we look at future trends, we might see some improvement. Or what are you guys seeing in general as far as the shortages? Are they being alleviated a little bit, or will they be sustained for years to come, as you both see it? Krishna?
Yeah, a long way to go, unfortunately. Just because also the pandemic has sort of accelerated digital transformation. I know it's a cliche term, but it is true. There's more people working from home. We need more systems that can support remote work, flexible work, and there's a lot of automation, right? So you have these RPA tools that are coming into the market, low code, no code, and all these tools are relatively new. I mean, this has happened in the last 4 or 5 years, if you will, and there's a lot of work to be done, but I think people are starting to understand the reality of the situation, coming to terms with this, and know that investments have to be made in the right place to change this. So that's the promising part, but I think it is a long journey.
Got it. And Eric, do you agree with what Krishna said?
Yeah, I do agree. I agree that it's amplified the situation greatly, and that I think when the pandemic hit, you had organizations saying, I had a 5-year technology roadmap, modernization, and they realized that they didn't advance that in the next 1 to 2 years, they were going to be out of business. So I think that has really accelerated things, and of course that's put a lot of pressure on the talent market. Though I will say, the other thing that's happened here is the fact that we pivoted to the virtual training. I think for us, we were dabbling a bit with that. I think, Krishna, you've been virtual for quite a while, and those organizations that were delivering training in that format really excelled and were ready to meet our needs. But it's also given us more access to talent. We're not in this place where we're saying to campus students or to those coming out of these types of pre-employment programs or even lateral hires, you must relocate for this job. We are offering those kinds of hybrid or virtual or remote working opportunities. And so that, I think, is helping us to find more technology talent, alleviate a little bit of the pressure that we would really have felt if we did not have this kind of pivot, this force to be more remote.
Right. And you guys hire a ton of people. What's historically, how many people do you hire a year?
125,000 last year globally, and another, close to 35,000 that we hire through our entry level training programs, what we call our Gen C programs. So a considerable amount. And just to put that in perspective, in the pre-employment programs, and it's several thousand. I don't want to give anybody the impression that that's the large 35,000. That number I'm giving them, 35,000, is global.
Got it. Okay, that's still a ton. That's a lot of heavy lifting. All right, so we're coming to the end of our conversation here. This has been really informative and really fascinating. But before we go, just share with us just one thing. What advice would you give talent acquisition and HR leaders on the best way to attract and retain talent?
So according to research, the number one reason employees quit in the first year of joining a company is lack of career development opportunities. And I don't think there is a better tool for career development than training. So I think the role of talent acquisition has to start to evolve beyond just a matchmaking activity. It's going to have to be matchmaking plus talent development.
Got it. Okay, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to share two quick things. I think that as talent leaders, we need to experiment. We need to get started, get in there, work with your local educational institutions, get in contact with your local chambers, your economic development offices. They will bring together and include you in various consortiums. That's how we got started. That's how a lot of the education about how these programs work, where there were successes, where there were some missteps. So I would encourage talent professionals to begin to experiment, begin to pilot. The second is to learn from those pilots. Over the last several years, we've learned a ton. We continue to learn a lot. And as one of my team members shared with me today, we need to start to moneyball this, which is essentially we've got a lot of data that's coming through the programs that are running with Krishna and lots of other our boot camps and other educational providers. We need to understand where those students come from, what makes them so successful at going through these programs, and how can we attract more of those students, and how can we meet more of their specific needs, again leveraging a lot of the data.
Got it. That's really insightful. Thanks for sharing that, Eric. Okay, so we're just about to close out our conversation. I usually ask for a poem or a saying. Krishna, do you want to go first?
Sure, and this is not related to the conversation we had at all, but this is a general sort of quote that I heard recently, and I really reckon with is most people underestimate what they can. I'm sorry, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. And this was from Bill Gates, and I thought it was phenomenal. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would say education is the passport for the future. So for tomorrow belongs to those that prepare for it today, which is a famous Malcolm X. And to me, that really, it is what I really subscribe to, is that lifelong learning, continuing to look at what you're seeing, those future trends, and making sure that you're prepared to capitalize on it. And so that's what we're encouraging all these students to really think about where the future is going to be. Jump in, take these programs, and you will be prepared to really succeed in technology. Because I'd say, maybe Krishna will agree, there are very few jobs that don't require you to be a digital native, to know technology in some way.
Great. That's a great way to end. So appropriate. Well, guys, thanks for doing this. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like it, leave a review, and subscribe. See you soon.